Hey, what's good YouTube? This is Trompoli, of course. So what is Substance 3D Modeler? Well, it's a brand new 3D software to create 3D objects with. This was officially released into the wild on Wednesday, October 18th, 2022. Currently, it is only available on Windows OS, and while you can model on your desktop, it is made to be used in VR. I don't remember exactly where I read it, and after trying it out on the desktop and VR, I agree. Some of the tools only works in VR. I thought maybe it will work with my display tablet, but no, only in VR. This video is not sponsored by Adobe, but if you want to try it out, use the link in the description and get a free trial for 30 days. And if you already have Adobe products, you can download through the Creative Cloud app as well. I'm just trying this new program out, so this is in no way a tutorial video. It's more of a quick intro / quick review video I wanted to make since I dabble a bit in 3D and VR. This definitely piqued my interest. If you like this video, Hulk smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification. That will help me grow my channel, and I really appreciate that. Okay, let's get to it. This is the interface, the welcoming party, showing you a bit of the information on how to set things up, such as your VR headset, which we will get into closer to the end. If you have never used a 3D software before, the navigation, the way you move the camera around, you will need to hold down the Alt key and use the mouse either left, middle, or right click. Each will do a different thing. The left mouse key will orbit around the focus. Middle key is for panning. The right key is for zooming in and out, and you can also do that with the scroller without holding down the Alt key. All 3D software use some kind of gizmo to change the 3D object. And in the modeler, these little white dots are for scaling. The 3 dots on the cube correspond to the axis they're in. Just click on it and drag it around to see the changes. And the 4th one in the upper right corner will scale the object in all 3 axes. I've changed the dimension of this polygon, and if I want to reset it back to a cube, you can click on revert and it will be as good as new. To transpose or move the object around, use the tiny little green arrows to again move the object in its specific axis only. Green is X, blue is Y, red is Z in most cases. Each software may have its own definition. And if you want to return the object to the center of the grid, click on this button down here. Okay, on to rotating. Just use these again, tiny little circles to do that. I'm getting old. Every UI seems to be too small in my opinion. Then finally we have this square, which is pretty weird and not a norm for Gizmo, at least in my experience. So basically it's another move function, but it's moving the object in the axis plane. So imagine there's a window or glass, a very clean piece of glass. Clicking on the green square, which I said earlier would be for the x-axis, I can move the object in this plane. But if you think about it, it's really the YZ axis that this object is moving in. Don't spend too much time thinking on this. My approach has always been hands-on with new software. Just click on those little squares and drag it around to have a feel for it. You'll get it. Another odd thing about Modeler is the 3D object you see in front of you isn't really an object, but more of a brush or a tool. Adobe says Modeler uses virtual clay for sculpting, so you can think of Prim, as they call it, a piece of clay in your hand and you're about to place it into this 3D space. And you have many different Prims you can choose from on the left here. At the bottom here, you can make adjustment to the Prim's sizes and shape parameters. Alright, things are about to get even more odd and strange. Well, different to me anyway, and it has to do with the VR aspect of this software. As I mentioned before, Prims are not 3D objects and they are more of a representation of the sculpting tool, and it's the size of the clay you're holding. So the pressure button activates the control of how much clay you apply onto the canvas or other 3D objects in the space. Upon activation, you will see the clay seems to disappear because there's no pressure applied. I'm turning it on and off to show this disappearing act. By pressing on the left mouse key, I can apply pressure, but a mouse isn't really built for this. It's more binary than a fine pressure sensing equipment. And even though I'm applying pressure, no clay is being placed or applied. This is where you have to use the apply button at the bottom here. Here I'm using the mouse to apply the clay, so you have this weird growing thing happening. You can also use the spacebar hotkey, but you get the same effect since the keyboard is also binary. As I'm editing this video, I feel I made my point that this software is not really meant for desktop usage. I played around with it with my tablet display, which worked a bit better, but where this app is at its best is in VR. So let's skip to the good part. VR setup instructions can definitely use improvements. Since this is a new software, I'm going to give it a break. There are some helpful things to optimize your VR experience, but I was looking for how to even set it up in the first place. While the instruction isn't great, the integration is. I was able to plug in my Quest VR headset using the link cable and access Modeler in the Quest Link environment. By the way, Quest is the only headset Modeler will work with at this time. Once you're in the VR space, all of the tools work as it should. Well, there's one thing I could not figure out, but I'll get back to that. If you have never been in a VR space for any sculpting tools or any apps at all, it's going to be a steeper learning curve for you just to move around. But if you have some experience, say in Meta Horizon or other 3D creative tools, this is very similar. On your left hand, there's your tool set. Right is your pointer and sculpting tool. So pick your tool and literally draw in space to create your form. There are different ways to use your sculpting tool, and it's called placement. There are 3 ways, 3 icons at the bottom of the tool palette. The hand icon is when you want to apply the clay directly onto a model, either apply or removing the clay. They call this free placement. Then there's the gizmo icon where you can apply clay more spatially using the arrows of the gizmo, moving in the X, Y, and Z axis more precisely. The last method is called surface placement, which is what I'm using here. It works much like an air spray can you use to clean dust off your keyboard. It uses that wand coming out of your right hand, and basically anything that is in its line of sight, you will be able to affect the clay surface. Here I switch to the smooth tool, and you can see that I'm smoothing the clay where the blue dot at the end of the wand is. And as I'm moving away from the clay, there is a blue dot projected onto the surface without being near it. And I'm turning the camera around the 3D object using my left trigger. Sort of feels like I'm grabbing the camera and turning it to the side or around the object. Here you can see me changing to the eraser tool for removing clay. You still have all the Prim choices as before. Overall, the eraser tool feels really good. It feels like I'm really scraping off the clay with a spherical tool as if I'm sculpting this out of clay in real life. One of the most important things for me is speed and convenience. So I really like that they have the size key and the switch key that are on the right controller. You can hold down the size key and move the controller in space to change the size of the Prim. There is an axis that you can follow to change the size of the tool. One of the more powerful tools here is the warp tool, which allows you to pull the clay out like Play-Doh. And if you use ZBrush, this is much like the snake hook brush. This tool is great for making spikes, quills, horns, and such. You will see me using the switch button here. Certain tools have what they call polarity. It's just another way of saying mode or how the system solves the reconfiguring of polygons. And for the clay tool, the switch button will switch between the eraser tool and the clay tool, which is very handy. Another convenient feature is changing the size of the Prim. Simply use the up and down arrow on the right controller to change the size. The build-up tool is a staple of any sculpting app. The clay tool is to add mass very quickly, and you can add particular geometry, whereas the build-up tool is more subtle and there are no Prim to choose from. Well, that's the last feature I'll cover in this video. I hope you liked this brief introduction to Substance 3D Modeler. Leave me a comment or question, give this video a like, and subscribe for more content in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.